So I'm not sure how long you can shovel shit on somebody's plate and continue to tell them it's bread pudding and expect them to enjoy it. You have companies denying us access to products and services when corporate debt is as high as it's ever been. And you have a government that can deny you for benefits or even control when you retire, that is running up more debt that it can never pay back and can barely pay its own bills and can't effectively run itself. When you look at the credit system as a whole, the concept of the credit system, credit score, etc., makes sense. Like when you think about if somebody put out a system that basically told you, here's a social media app and we're gonna basically collect data on social experiences people have had with other people. And you can go on that app and before you interacted with a stranger or a new employee or coworker or anybody, before you interacted with that person, you can go on that app and find out what kind of person that they've been prior to wasting your time engaging with them. The concept of it makes sense. When you turn around and look at the credit system, this is essentially what this was intended to be, but for the sake of commerce. It's intended to be able to tell the quality of a person to keep their word and pay back on arrangements whenever they borrow money, as agreed. Makes sense. The problem with the credit system is the obvious part is the credit system is used as a mechanism of control. The way the score is determined is intended to force you to participate in the system in order to get a positive score. So that's the whole concept of not having a credit score at all and being essentially treated in the marketplace worse or as bad or worse than somebody with a bad credit score. Literally just because you haven't participated, you're considered a high-risk individual. It's used as a mechanism of controlling our system. So when you turn around and think about, okay, you're forcing me to participate in the system in the name of integrity when the system itself barely has any integrity. It's a bunch of bullshit. Like, essentially, when you reflect back on your financial life, assuming that, everybody watching this has had to participate in the credit system, like, they're basically forcing us to go into debt on some level, or as I've kind of demonstrated in our other videos on the channel, like, at least have to participate with money in a way that forces me to build a financial reputation. And it forces me to engage in the banking system. It forces me to engage in the lending system. It forces me to, engage with other companies, buy stuff. It forces me to participate in the system even against my will. And you can sit here and try to take the approach and, okay, well, I'm just not gonna participate at all. Like I'm not, I meet people every day. Like I do finance and banking every day for a living. So like, I see people who are 40, 50 plus years old, sometimes older, that have never participated in credit. But I look at their quality of life in most cases that I encounter, they don't have access to anything. Like for the most part, if you couldn't afford it in cash, which many people in today's world can't, because that's a whole nother conversation. Like essentially the cost of living has never kept up with the rising cost of all of your basic needs and necessities. So food, clothes, shelter, and the things that have become necessities in our lives, like, cell phones and other forms of technology, etc. All of these things are more expensive and they grow in expense and cost way faster than our wages ever do. And so if you haven't participated in the credit system, 9 out of 10 times you don't have a lifestyle or an income, a job, you don't have a career path that's gonna allow you to pay cash for everything. So that means that you've gone without access to a lot of things. So when I first see people who, come in and sit in my office, getting their first credit card, for instance, that are 40, 50, 60 plus, they're like, I need to rent a car. Like when you get down to the brass tacks, you know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, I need to rent a car, or I needed to secure a hotel room. Whatever the case may be, not having credit has locked them out of something that they needed access to. And so this is where the illegitimacy of the credit system comes into play, and really the whole system as a whole. It's just like, you're gonna basically tell me that I have to force build my character in your system, and in order to do so, I have to participate in all of these different parts of the marketplace, even if it's not something that I actually needed in the first place. When you look at the broader system as a whole, like, as I mentioned a little bit in the beginning of this conversation, like, essentially you have companies and corporations that are literally, in majority of them, are in record levels of debt, that in the highest levels we've ever seen. And many of them, when crisis strikes, they're taking bailouts and borrowing money. Like, they can't really afford their own operation in real life. Even though they're playing with 8, 9, and 10 figures, many of them are not able to withstand a financial storm of their own, but there's constant data reports of us that, don't have emergency savings. And it's like, well, damn, this multi-million-dollar company, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, they can't afford a financial crisis or an emergency either. You saying that my car breaks down, clearly if their car breaks down, they ain't in no better shape than I am. The same thing with the government. That's a whole nother conversation. Like, the government can have the ability to control, things like when we retire, access to public assistance, etc. They can tell us yes or no. They can control how much we get. They can tell us, what's sufficient for us, etc. But then you turn around and it's like the government isn't efficient at its own job. It's literally controlling your access to resources, and the government is really designed to work for us in the first place. We employ the government, technically speaking. Like, our vote, our tax revenue employs the government. They're supposed to be representative, so it's really supposed to work for the people. They're just there to work for us. And my entire lifetime, I'm in my mid-30s, somebody that's older can tell me differently, but my entire lifetime, I felt no such kind of way. The government has been nothing but a control mechanism my entire experience. So you look at the entire financial system, you look at the credit system, the governance system, it requires our participation and brainwashes us into believing that participation is like a right or like, some kind of enhanced access or like this gifted system in a sense of speaking. And it's clever, don't get me wrong, it's clever. But, I say all of that to say, at the end of the day, if you are not going to participate in a credit game strictly for the point of view of building wealth, like at a faster pace than you can just going off of your income and savings, if you're not going to participate in a credit system from a perspective of really accumulating assets and strictly building upward, then it makes no sense going into the next year and any years beyond at this point in time you're catching this video. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. There's no point in participating in the credit system other than what your basic needs may be that force you to do so, and your intent to say, okay, like, beyond this point of getting the bare minimum things I have to get that the system forces me to have to play with credit or participate with credit to get access to. If I'm not looking to build out a rental portfolio, if I'm not looking to build out a company or a small business, if I'm not looking to participate in the financial system at scale in a way that's gonna create a legacy for myself and my family and let us control our quality of life better, there's very little reason to participate with credit. Like, there's next to no reason at all, because there's almost no way you can win. Consumer credit card debt is as high as it's ever been. I believe at this point of this recording, it's probably at or over $1 trillion. Auto loan delinquencies are the same places, through the roof. You have, banks and institutions reporting record levels of defaults on various lending products throughout the financial system. If you look at Navy Federals of the world, like all these different, Bank of America, these different companies are putting out constant data just in the last couple of years, especially since the money that was dished out during COVID has started to run its course through the financial system. Like, the majority of debt products that are out there are burning us for the most part. Like, they're literally burning us. Like, good luck with a car right now. Like, there's almost no such thing as a car note under $400 or $500. Like, at the baseline, you can literally damn near go get a beat or hoopty. You're gonna pay $400 or $500 a month for it. God forbid that you want a really decent functioning level vehicle that's effective or can perform. You're gonna pay $700, $800, $900 a month. If you got any more expensive taste than that, you have literally a house note for a car note. And when you look at insurance, it's no better. Insurance is the worst. The cost of insurance has been one of the highest inflating consumer goods or, consumer staples, whatever you want to call it, in the financial system that's gotten next to no media coverage in the last 2 to 3 years. Like, the whole era of inflation we've experienced lately, insurance has been some of the worst. And that's like thinking auto insurance, home insurance. And if you've been paying any attention, you own a home, if you own a vehicle, already. Like, insurance is the worst. That's something you're paying into constantly that you might not need for years down the line. You pay thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars in, and you can't even get a claim filed appropriately or properly without them trying to find a way to finesse you out of it. Like, the cost of goods, services, and everything that we need on a basic level basis is going to continue to grow exponentially beyond our wages. If you're not going to participate with credit, if you're not going to participate with finding a way to supplement at minimum, but honestly replace your job if you're still working, if you're not gonna find a way to do these things. Honestly speaking, it's hard to see in the next 15 to 20 years, one full generation or beyond that, how most of us aren't gonna drown out. It's gonna be a slow boil. It's not gonna be something where we look up tomorrow and everything's taken from us and we living on the street or under a bridge. But if you're like under the age of maybe 50, 55 years old, you still got 15, 20, 25 years of working years in front of you. You still have, kids or, to put through college or school, or, if you're younger and you're like going through college, like, God bless your soul if you're under 35. Like, and I'm in my mid 30s, so I'm kind of close in that bracket with you. Like, at the end of the day, you got 20, 30 years in front of you that if you look at the financial system, if you look at the credit system, the political system, you're not about to tell me decades of mismanagement of money, decades of brainwashing us as consumer into these, malicious, sadistic form of participation in the system in order to grow the system essentially as a whole. You're not going to tell me decades of that is about to reverse itself in one presidential campaign. You're not about to tell me, that this one financial plan is about to just guide me out of this situation. Is it possible to make the moves financially to get out of this situation and make a good quality of life and build a strong financial legacy? It's absolutely so. Our whole channel has been based on various tactics and strategies to do so, but having more of a raw one-on-one conversation in this video here and videos going forward, like, you have to lock in and participate in this game in a way that will allow you to actually get over the hump of what is happening around you. You can't, just play the pay raise game, job hopping, honestly, even side gigging is a start, but it's really not a long-term strategy. Like, if you're not gonna truly get into the few vehicles that are actually going to keep up with or outpace the rising cost of living, basically, which is gonna be the stock market, is gonna be various forms of real estate, owning and operating a real legitimate business, or a really, really business structured freelance career, something that you can really control your income. Crypto might fall in that bucket depending on how you participate with that. Even owning hard assets to some extent like gold and silver. It's not a full-scale retirement plan, but all these are a handful of buckets that are gonna be available for you to truly move the needle long-term and be able to possibly have a real shot at having a decent quality of life the next generation up, 10, 15, 20, 25 years down the line. If you look at the stock market, if you look at gold and silver, if you look at real estate, if you look at, again, to some degree, cryptocurrencies, if you look at these handful of assets, land is in that bucket with real estate, if you look into these few asset classes, these have been the only things that have really created the division in those who have and have not. If you take away from wealthy people all of their assets and break them down to just their income, if you break them down to their income and expenses, etc., in many cases, these people don't live better than we do as far as fiscally responsible. That's not really the secret sauce. They own and put the majority of their earnings and their wealth in other vehicles that are gonna automatically keep catapulting. Why? Because we're forced to keep inflating them. We're tricked and forced into keep inflating them. The companies that we're forced to do business with, buy excessively from, finance our purchases from. Like, when you look at to buy now and pay later, well, we're literally financing basic necessities. Like, we literally, like, food and groceries can be bought now and paid for later in finance. That's only making the valuation of these companies higher. So if you don't own that same company you buying from, or you don't own that same company that you're participating with financially, etc., if you don't, the same thing is going on with real estate. You have a massive mismanagement of, the economic system and, a dirty set of politics, rules, and regulations that's led to a housing shortage. And then you have a growing population that is influencing the supply and demand dynamic of real estate. So what does that basically mean? That our forced need for housing and the mismanagement of the economic system has led to housing inflation at the end of the day. So now if you don't own a home and own other properties that other people are renting from you, etc., you're falling behind for the most part. Like, if you're not on the right side of the equation, you're literally falling behind. So I just wanted to put this out here in a more raw conversation. I know I've had video after video that's been really robotic, strategies, tactics, etc. I haven't been behind the camera in a minute. If you're new catching this, essentially you can check the channel out. I'm a banker by trade, licensed mortgage loan originator, licensed FINRA investment license, life insurance license, small business banking certified, etc. All that. I'm in the financial system, up to the neck really. And so, if you're new, you're catching this, essentially you're getting this from somebody who's deep in the financial space and has spent hundreds of videos over this channel teaching financial tactics and strategies on how to advance financially for the real everyday Main Street person. You know, I'm just starting now to get into a real one-to-one organic conversation setup. Those of you who are, you know, been on the channel, my pioneers, my day one, the ones who've been rocking with me from day one, you already know what time it is. I'm just glad to be back in front of y'all on the camera, you know, closing out the end of this year, going into 2025. You know, please, if you're going to participate in the financial system, you're going to participate in the credit system. The only way it's making sense for you to do so is if you're going to truly lock in on a strategy to actually surplus ahead. If you're participating just for the sake of it being the norm or because that is the way you've been, you know, psychologically programmed, if you don't look at the statistics now and it's not obvious to you, our country is bankrupt, politically speaking, our government, corporations are damn near bankrupt, the majority of them. And as consumers, we're right along with them. Literally all of it is irreversible, unrealistically payable levels of debt across the board. If you're not going to use it to acquire actual, real, valuable assets that are going to continue to likely be valuable no matter what financial system we're in, or monetary system we're in, or wherever the hell the world is headed in the next 15, 20, 25 years, if you don't have that in place and a few other financial resources, think life insurance, things of that nature, if you don't have these things in place, if you're not going to use credit to participate on that level, I honestly don't, I advise you to stay away from it. Like, I literally advise you to stay away from it. So that's my rant at the moment. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where you are in your financial situation, your relationship to credit, you know, the overall perspective on where the system is right now, where things are headed. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Other than that, to all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. I want each and every one of you to stay focused, stay in motion. See y'all soon.